Hey everyone, this is Christine DeGraff, and you are watching TNT Boot Camp with Christine and Ronnie. And we're doing something a little different now. This is now hosted on my channel, so Ronnie is going to be the co-host this time. How are you today, Ronnie?
I'm doing well. I am the Hangout helper, so I'm helping with the Hangout. How's that?
Yes, and it's funny because I've been getting really used to being the co-host, but not the host. So, but knowing that I have the Hangout helper here is pretty calming of the nerves, I guess you could say. But we have a special guest today. We have Ana Hoffman. Hello, Ana.
Good morning, Christine and Ronnie. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
How are you?
Anyway, I'm fine. I'm wired. I had a lot of coffee, so jittery as always. And yeah, I'm ready to go.
Good, great. Well, Ana is are you the owner of it's Traffic Generation Cafe? Can you tell us a little bit about that and your background?
Yes, absolutely. So, the selfish me would hope that everybody on this call already know who I am, but just in case you don't, and you've been living under the rock, sorry, bad joke. So Traffic Generation Cafe is all about generating free website traffic to your sites. And why free? Because most of the times, in my experience, when we start a new business or continue with a business that is not doing too well, we don't usually have the kind of money that it takes to do AdWords, Facebook ads, whatever paid channels that we've got. Now, don't get me wrong; they do work, and they work great if you know what you're doing and if you can afford it. But most of us can't. Most of us, I know how it feels to have most of your assets in pizza coupons and grocery store coupons. So that's what we do at Traffic Generation Cafe, or what I do, I should say. Just talk about all free web traffic methods available to us and how we can maximize the traffic we get from those channels with, if possible, the minimum effort we can put into it.
Yes, and your tagline is big web traffics for small budgets. So tell us a little bit about, everybody wants to know what tools you're using to get this traffic, and what kind of traffic are we talking about?
Well, first of all, I always put my actions where my mouth is. Traffic Generation Cafe has been built on all free traffic. I've never used any paid traffic method to drive traffic to my blog. So pretty much everything that you see that goes on there comes from me experimenting with different channels, different tools, kind of exploring what works and what doesn't. And the first thing I want to say is that one size never fits all when you run your own business. It depends on your niche, it depends on who you are, what your audience is, what you. So I can suggest, I'll be happy to share everything I know about driving free web traffic within 40 minutes that Christine gave me. But in the end, you'll just basically have to, the most important thing that you can do is to actually go out there, pick one thing, go out there and do it for a while and see if it works for you. So, where do we start?
Yes, where do we start? Ronnie, where should we start? Do we have any comments out there? I know there's a lot of people watching.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people saying hi, and here we are, and glad to be here live. And we are glad that you're here live, too. But let me ask Ana a quick question about coffee.
Yes, Ronnie.
Where does your love of coffee come from, and how does that tie into your particular blog? Because it looks like it's a big part of it.
It is. I think my love of coffee comes from being a mother and doing everything at the same time, and inability to get any sleep. So I have to drink coffee to do all those things. So, but honestly, my daughter is 7 years old, and since she was born, I just have become a coffee addict. And I'm from Russia originally, so in Russia, despite of what people think that vodka is the main drink there, it's really actually tea. We're very social people. We'll love to get together and knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, you want to have a cup of tea, and just catch up and see what's going on. So that's why, for me, drinking coffee is very social. I do that with my friends. I do that with my computer when I have no friends to talk to. So yeah, coffee is really the best tool. As I noted, I think in my comment below, it's the single most important tool that Traffic Generation Cafe runs on.
Okay,
There, you
excellent.
heard it here first.
Right.
Coffee is your #1 tool.
I am giving you the silver bullet here, honestly. Jokes is, well, it's not a joke, but yes, funny talk aside. So tools. You know, your business, when you think about your business as a whole, right, there are a few areas of your business that you need to address in order to have a successfully running business as a whole. And those couple of things that I wanted to talk about is your website, first of all, then a way to convert your traffic from people who are just browsing, visiting, into potential customers, subscribers, whatever it is that the next step for them, for you is, you know, whatever you want them to, the next step to take. And then the third thing, of course, is traffic. You know, how are you going to get the people from the World Wide Web out there to your site and not your competitor's site? And
I love it how you talked about conversion before you talked about acquiring traffic, because I think that a lot of people, they just think more traffic, more traffic, more traffic, but if you're not able to then take that traffic and convert them to subscribers or customers, you know, if they just all get there and bounce, then it's really a wasted effort.
Absolutely. It's like putting your traffic in a leaking bucket. You know, no matter how much water you dump into it, eventually it'll be all done, you'll be left with nothing. So before you focus on traffic, you definitely need to focus on traffic conversion, i.e. what is it that you want your traffic to do on your website. So for instance, if it's email list building, and that's one of the most common probably traffic conversion strategies, because with a solid email list, what happens is that not only you're building an audience that trusts you, that hopefully likes what you send them, but also you build a trusted foundation for your money-making strategies. Because, for instance, if I'm on your list, Christine, and I love your content, I know that whatever you recommend is because you've tested it, you've run it on your site, it works for you. So it saves me time, right, if I'm on your list, to take up on your recommendation and use that tool instead of doing my own research. Anyway, so that's a great way for you to kind of lay a foundation for a lot of things on your blog. So if email list building is your #1 priority, like it is with me on at Traffic Generation Cafe, then you need to make sure that the single most important tool that you use is a good autoresponder. There are several out there on the market. I use Aweber at Traffic Generation Cafe. When I first started, I did a lot of research on what's, you know, the most reliable service is out there, and Aweber seemed to be one of the best. So, and my suggestion is that don't overanalyze things. You know, tools are incredible, but in the end, it's not the tools that will make or break your business. So let's say, you know, you're down to 2-3 autoresponders, just pick one. You know, I mean, you'll waste more time and money trying to kind of figure out which one works best for your business. Just pick one and go with it. For me, it was Aweber. It works great. So that's my sort of conversion funnel. And once people get on my list, then the next thing is to provide them with a reason and to confirm to them that it was worthwhile their time to get on your list. So that's things like any kind of exclusive things that you don't share with anyone else. For me, that would be traffic tips, traffic hacks that I don't post anywhere else. It has to be valuable. It has to be to the point, because your subscribers don't have that much time, right, to waste. You are fighting for that space in their inbox, and you better make it good. You know, better make yourself look very good amongst all the competition that is sending them emails as well. So those are the important things if you want to focus on email marketing as your conversion strategy. Now, for some people, making money off their blog is probably the better way to go. You know, if you're, for instance, have a personal blog and it doesn't make sense for you to collect email subscribers, and maybe you want to capitalize on ads, for instance, whether it's AdSense or running ads from specific companies, then that's your conversion strategy. And you need to make sure that however you set up your conversion funnel to work, it works for your audience. You know, that's the most important thing that I see so many bloggers ignore in their quest to make money. It's really, I think it's really not a good idea to try to make money off your blog per se. It's much better to use your blog as a funnel to make money elsewhere, you know, whether it's through email lists like we've talked about, or maybe even a special page like a review page or a review site that you have if you make money off affiliate products. Nobody likes to be sold to, right? But at the same time, we all like to buy because that's just our nature. So you kind of need to work out that conversion funnel to see how you can place the ads in such a way that they're still relevant, they work. You don't have to be embarrassed about the ads that you put in your site, because I see that all the time. If you don't have good control over which ads you end up displaying, probably not a good idea. You'll end up turning off a lot of your potential traffic and potential visitors that way. So that's for conversion. You know, not too many tools. There are a lot of blogs out there that I love reading, like unbounce.com, conversionexcel.com, that talk about conversion and how to set up your funnels in such a way to work best. Now, quite honestly, you know, most of us we are one man or woman running the entire show. We don't have time to do split testing and all of that. Again, my suggestion is don't stress about it too much. Do watch what you're doing and do see how people react to your website, how they interact with your website. The best tool that I have found for that, again, you know, it won't give you tremendous insight into what's going on with your site, but it's free, it's available to everybody, and it doesn't take much time, and that's in-page analytics in Google Analytics. So if you go to your Google Analytics account, and you scroll down on the left-hand sidebar, and you'll see, I think it's under Audience or Behavior, in-page analytics. And then with that tool, you can very quickly see, it will give you kind of like a breakdown of where people are clicking on any particular page on your blog. So you'll be able to tell, are they clicking on those ads? Do they click on your homepage more? Do they click on any other posts within the website? Very simple, very easy to use. It doesn't take much time or effort to do it, and that's what I would recommend you do to kind of zero in on those conversion goals that work for your website and your traffic.
I had a couple questions or comments from the viewers out there, so let me bring one up here. Marilyn's saying that she loves the fact that your business is completely organic, so that's great. And I wanted to bring up this one. This is from Thomas, and you may not be able to read all of it, so I'm going to get right to the bottom line. He's saying that from previous conversations, he understands only a small percentage of your incredible amount of traffic comes from Google search, which is amazing to him and me. What's the greatest tip that you could share with us that's for generating referral traffic, since apparently that's where all your stuff's coming from?
Yes, thank you, Thomas. I knew you, of all people, would ask a good question like that. So here's the deal. About a year ago, Traffic Generation Cafe was slapped by Google for unnatural linking. And honestly, I'm guilty, as most of us. You know, we can kick and scream and say, I don't know why, but we really do know why. You know, there was a period of time in SEO where we were told by who we considered SEO experts that we need more links, that it's not about quality, it's about quantity, and that's what we did. A lot of us did, you know. And so I had an SEO company that I bartered services with. I wrote for their site, and they did some SEO link building for me, and it wasn't any good. And Google told me in no uncertain terms that it's not good, you'll have to do something about it. And it's a lot of work to get that penalty revoked. So, of course, I chose to do nothing, right? That's the best decision that I could make. But no, just what I chose to do is that's fine. Most of my traffic used to come from Google search, probably about 50 to 60%, and then some of it was from social media, and then a lot of it was referrals from other blogs. And so I said, how can I manage to run Traffic Generation Cafe without Google search? And that was sort of a challenge that I put ahead of myself. And for the past year, I've been doing what I was regularly doing before this lab, and with larger emphasis on being more connected with my audience off my blog. And that's a little bit controversial because a lot of people say that, well, our site is our home, right? Why would I take my presence, my online presence, and build a strong, a strong presence somewhere else off my site if that site can be shut down at any point? You hear that all the time. And I know you, Christina, you, Ronnie, can relate to that because we are all on Google+, and Google+ is almost our second home away from home, or sometimes even our first home. I don't check my comments on my blog nearly as much as I should, but I check that Mr. Jingle sign all the time. I'm addicted to it.
And just to go with that, what people say, we're building a presence on Google+ or something that could be shut down. Well, just like you said, your website, if you're solely reliant on traffic from Google search, one penalty and it's gone. I know, a lot of very large, I guess didn't Amazon recently get slapped with a penalty that cost them millions of dollars apparently?
eBay did, yes.
eBay, okay.
Mm-hmm. And plenty of sites too, and that's a very good point, Christine. Even when you run your website and you put your sweat, blood, and tears into it, it can still be shut down by a hosting company. It can be attacked by bots. It can be, displayed that flashing red sign, you have malware on your site, and your website can be down for days, and you can be losing out, missing out on generating your revenue. So anything can happen. And the thing about third-party platforms is that I'm all for using them because they work today. Tomorrow, we don't know what's going to happen with any one of them, including our site, but today they do work. And that's why Google Plus works for us today. And going back to Thomas's question, so what I decided to do back then is let's focus on social media, and let's focus on generating traffic by referrals from other blogs. And what I mean referrals from other blogs is being organically mentioned by other bloggers in their blog posts. So which means that, number one, I need to write the kind of content that's worth mentioning. And that's very important. This is probably a little bit outside the scope of today's hangout because we can be talking about that forever. But assuming that you have the killer content that other bloggers would like to link to, then the next step would be to find those other bloggers and get connected with them, because you can't just sit and wait for your content to just be shared by others. You have to be proactive. And that's where Thomas Hanna is really my hero, because in many ways he's been doing in the past 2-3 months what I've been telling people to do for years, is that take your time, zero in on one platform, and really take your time connecting with people. Thomas has started his blog, blogphoto.tv, about now 3 months ago, right, Thomas? And in 3 months, it has such incredible traction in traffic and comments, and most of all, a lot of engagement, and people are talking about his site. I mean, look at me, I'm talking about him, and his blog is 3 months old. But the reason for that is that he just illustrates the point that I'm trying to make so well. take your time and build those relationships with people who share content like yours and engage with bloggers like yours, and leverage those relationships to get your blog out there. And that's what Google Plus has been for me as well. You know, forget about Google organic search. If you focus on the right people in Google Plus, because as you know, Google Plus has an incredible amount of people of tremendous caliber that are so accessible, and you can't find that kind of accessibility on Facebook or Twitter. It's so easy to get lost on those social media platforms. And yet Google Plus, we're all here. You can go talk to, you know, Eric Anga, Ronnie Bincer, Christine DeGraff. I mean, any one of us, we're here. You know, we answer your comments. So that's why not putting all your eggs in one basket is very, very important. And for me, social media and blog referrals have been a tremendous source of traffic.
You recently wrote a huge post that went over really well, 10 ways to successfully engage influencers. Mm-hmm. And one of the first thing you said is link out shamelessly and unceasingly. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, and why, you know, how has this helped you? How has it impacted traffic to your site and your own influence and bottom line?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are too concerned about SEO and potential impact that everything that they do on their website might have on traffic that they're not getting to begin with. You know, I mean, most of you, be honest with yourselves. How much of Google organic search traffic are you getting? Probably not too much, or not enough amount to worry about it. And most of that traffic does not convert as well as traffic from sources that trust you before they send you traffic. Like, you know, you build your presence on social media, or you mentioned by a blogger who's basically potentially endorsing you by linking out to you. So my point is that when you link out to other bloggers, don't worry about SEO. Don't worry about any potential effects it might have on you, because linking out to other bloggers has a tremendous benefit to you today. Because what you're doing by linking out is that you're acknowledging, first of all, that you've read their content, right? Because to mention them, you need to know what you're linking out to. So that means that you give them a compliment of reading their content. Also, you give them a compliment of basically endorsing and recommending them in front of your readership. And you are building a bridge from your blog, from your, you know, who you are online, to that blogger by linking out to them. Now, the important thing, of course, is to let them know that you linked out to them. Don't just rely on WordPress, pingbacks, trackbacks, or somehow the word of mouth magically, you know, getting out there. Just send them an email, ping them on Google Plus or any other social media platform that works great as well. So, but linking out is really very undervalued way of getting out there and start talking to the bloggers. And don't forget, you're providing very valuable resource to your readers as well, because, you know, no one blog is an exhaustive resource on any one topic ever. You know, when I write a blog post, I always find it that my readers could learn more about the specific thing, but I've never written anything about it. So I go ahead and I look for other blogs that have written good blog posts on the topic, and I link out to them. So really very important, very simple, good for you readers, good for you, good for the bloggers you're trying to network with.
There was a question from Tim. Let me bring it up here. Just because we want questions live from the audience if we can. And Tim's asking, at what point do ads on a site become a negative factor? Maybe having too many ads and the audience eventually just doesn't even notice them anymore.
Well, I suppose there are two ways to answer the question, Tim. And number one, negative effect from SEO-wise, or we're talking about just user experience. As far as I'm concerned, when I go on a site that has ads, I don't like it already. because I feel like I'm being sold to before I'm ready to buy anything. So, you know, my personal experience, and I've ran banner ads at Traffic Generation Cafe, and they have reduced income. So I'm not saying don't do it, but what I've learned is that it wasn't enough money for me to sacrifice my user experience. So I'd rather promote affiliate products within my content when they match what I'm talking about versus putting banner ads at the top or in my sidebar. So again, Tim, you know, there is no specific answer. You'll have to experiment with what you have and with your audience. But the one thing that I would strongly recommend, do not do any ads if your site is fairly new. Because before you build that trust with your readers, you come to your blog, it's their first time, and they get bombarded by all sorts of ads, you know, in the beginning, in the sidebar, throughout the text. It just doesn't work very well.
We have another question. This one is from Cherie, and she wants to know, going back to the linking out, and then is the second step is to invite the person to guest blog or vice versa?
Good question. So, from my experience, again, talking about experience, when people come to Traffic Generation Cafe, they want to hear from me. Whenever I post a guest post, even from someone who is very known in the blogosphere, it just does not get as much traction. Even though that person promotes the blog post as well, it's like people are not as willing to comment, or I don't get as much traffic to that blog post. And my conclusion was that for me, in my niche with Traffic Generation Cafe, guest blogs posts just were not working for my audience, and they were not driving that much traffic for my guest authors as well. So I choose to pretty much not publish guest posts at Traffic Generation Cafe for that simple reason, because there's a lot of work involved for both parties, you know, to publish a guest post. I need to make sure that it's up to the standard, that Traffic Generation Cafe readers will actually learn something from it, right? And then the other person, of course, has to work to produce something up to my standards, which is usually kind of very difficult to do. So for me, I'd say, you know, I'm not a big fan. Does it work? Absolutely does for some blogs. I mean, there are plenty of blogs out there that publish, that pretty much all they do is publish guest posts, and it's, in a way, it's a revolving door. And again, you know, as I'm talking about it, I feel like I'm being negative. There's nothing wrong with guest blogging per se. I've done it myself. I drove a lot of traffic from guest posts, but oh, here's my suggestion. So instead of doing one-off kind of guest post, what works much better is becoming a columnist for another blog. So, like for instance, I blogged for Yaro Starok's entrepreneur's journey for a while, and I basically wrote for him once a week in the beginning or once a month later on, and I was a regular guest blogger on his blog, and that generated a lot more traffic than any single guest post I published elsewhere.
We have a question from Marilyn Moore. She wants you to clarify something. She said, so are you saying that web visibility is not a priority?
Well, web visibility is always a priority. I'm not quite sure what specifically we're talking about. So,
possibly Google search.
You think? Okay. So Google search is great. It's a great long-term traffic generator. Now, the thing about Google search is that you really kind of have to stay on top of the game to be effective. For most people, staying on top of the games means either hiring an SEO company, which is getting increasingly more and more difficult to do these days, because as we can see, SEO companies fall off the the surface of the earth every day because they focus on those what works today techniques and not necessarily what will rank your site long term. So, you know, it's possible to do that, but it's very difficult. And then Other than that, you really kind of have to stay on top of SEO trends, what's going on with Google, tweak your content constantly according to those trends, because even if your post is ranking today for whatever keyword, it might not tomorrow. So if you want to keep your rankings, you kind of need to constantly update what the content that you have. Now, some of you may be very lucky. Your post just showed up because you've done some things right, and that's tremendous. And a lot of times, that's what I would suggest you do to get the most out of SEO traffic potential. Is write on specific topics that your audience is interested in. Answer how-to questions, because a lot of times that's what people search for. They search for solutions. And if your posts are geared specifically to solve one problem, don't try to solve, I'm not a big fan of lists by any means, because they don't really solve any problems. Yes, they get a lot of shares through social media because, 101 ways to do blah, 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 to whatever.
To drink coffee. 101 ways to drink coffee.
There you go. Good one.
But you are a big fan of weekly roundups. That's one thing that you recommend on social media, and you have your weekly marketing skinny. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that's a little bit different because when you do roundups, your intention is to make it easier for your readers to get to something to particular information that otherwise they might not get to. For instance, when I do my weekly marketing skinnies, the reason why I started doing them to begin with is I found that I had very hard time keeping track of all the marketing news and staying on top of Google, social media forums, and all the new features that have been releasing. So I started reading pretty much everything, and for about a month, I was a glutton. I just read and read and read. And it took up so much of my time to do that, and I'm thinking, no way, any business owner would be able to do that, right? But I'm doing it anyway, because that was my experiment. So I decided to start doing the skinnies for that specific purpose, to give people a very concise and quick way to catch up on what's going on, and publish them once a week. I do mine on Saturdays. And there are many other ways of doing roundups. Now, the thing about roundups is that people think that they're easy, and they're not. It takes a lot of time. And if you think that you are easy and you're trying to put one out, that most likely means that your roundup is very weak and nobody's going to read it. Because you can't just slap together a few posts because people who wrote them are influential in some way and you might on their radar. It doesn't work that way, because your end target audience, your reader, will see right through it, and it just does not work. So you have to put the work into roundups for them to actually work for you.
I have a question on strategy for social. If you're, for example, with Google+, many of us know that we don't just leave a link and say, read my blog, here's a link, and you're done. So we usually put something that entices somebody to get to the point where they'll click to come through to the blog. Right. How do you manage the process of writing the article and also writing up a good, intriguing, tease kind of post? What's your process for doing that?
I don't have a specific formula. It really depends on the post, and a lot of times I almost give away too much. And what I've noticed is that it's okay. Don't be afraid. I would rather you give away too much, but provide value to your followers on Google+, than not give away anything and just make them feel like all you want them to do is click on the link. Your post has to provide value on Google+, and that's the difference of Google+ from other social media platforms. Like take Twitter, it's a one-liner, and people have to click on the link if they want to find out more, right? Google+ does not work that way. The more value you provide on Google+, the more shares. Even if people don't need to click on your link per se, they're more likely to share it with their followers if they find value in your Google+ post itself. So, like again, with my marketing skinnies, I provide enough information when I share them on Google Plus that people almost don't need to go to my site to read it. And that's okay with me because I understand that they're busy, and I'd rather them catch up on those marketing news without going to Traffic Generation Cafe than not have it all. But you know what happens is that they know who Ana Hoffman is because I've given them value on Google Plus. And next time they think marketing news, they'll probably go check out my stream to see what's going on. So in the end, it still goes back to me. And that's what your main technique on Google Plus or any other social media platform should be. You know, all roads lead to you and back to your website. So that's more of a long-term strategy that a lot of people kind of ignore when they're in social media.
All right, since we are running out of time, there's one thing I want to talk about. I want to ask you a question. Why is Traffic Generation Cafe not making as much money as it should?
Shit, I knew you were going to ask us. Well, because I'm lazy, I think, and because I am, as many people, I'm afraid to make money on what I provide. I provide a lot of free, solid content. And unfortunately, a lot of people out there, and I'm sure it's not you people who are watching this hangout right now, but the second you see a blogger who provides so much value for free try to make money off of their readership, it's all, whoa, what's going on here? Now you're trying to sell me something. And I'm thinking, well, duh, really? You go to a restaurant, you get served a meal, and you tip the person who serves you a meal. You know, that's okay, that's custom. Well, see this as tipping me. You know, you're going to buy something anyway. For instance, you want to get Aweber as your autoresponder, you're going to get it anyway, so why not get it through my link so that I get $5 from Aweber? But it adds up, you know, the simple things like that, but they scare us because we don't like negative feedback, right? So I did a webinar that was a free webinar last week, I think it was. It was a tremendous value to people who attended it, and yes, there was a product attached at the end, and you didn't need to buy the product to get the value. But when I sent out an email telling my email subscribers about that webinar, I had unsubscribes like there's no tomorrow. You know, that's a little bothersome. I understand that a lot of times we don't want to buy, but really at the slightest wind of, you know, let's do some money exchanging here, people turn away. So that's why. But I'm going to be better at it because Traffic Generation Cafe is a business. That's how I try to run it. So you'll just have to bear with me. And I'm going to do reviews, and I'm going to kind of narrow down my funnel so that it leads to my affiliate marketing page, and it's going to happen. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I learned a lot. I was like, can't wait to rewatch.
Thank you so much, Christine. And you know, just one last remark. You know, if you attend Google Hangouts a lot, there's probably a lot of information that you can get out any one of them. And my biggest urge, you know, the biggest thing that I can leave you with is pick one thing. You know, it can get too overwhelming to kind of, you know, try to focus on all the valuable points you hear, but just pick one thing and go do it. Because without doing it, nothing's going to happen. That's why I don't make money from Traffic Generation Cafe, because I don't do the things that actually make money. I prefer to, you know, just write blog posts because that's what I'm good at. But anyway, doing is what makes the difference.
And give us a call to action. How can people get a hold of you, and where should they go, and what do you want them to do when they get there?
Okay, good one. So trafficgenerationcafe.com is where I live. I have a great ebook. It's not the kind of ebooks that you get and you don't ever read, because you do want to read this one, because I tell you specific ways where you can start your traffic generation process from nothing to a lot if you follow those steps. It's very short, it's very to the point. It's called Mommy, Where Does Website Traffic Come From? And you really need to get it from Traffic Generation Cafe. Just fill out any of my email address forms that you see around. I promise you will love that book.
Awesome. And Ronnie, who do we have coming up next, and what should people do?
We have, if I remember right, we've got Mia Voss coming up next. We're going to be talking with Mia Voss the third Monday of October.
Yes.
Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. That
Okay.
would be October 20th.
Yeah, and if people are not currently getting invited to these things, you have in the commenting area, you can say add me to the invite circle. But generally, if we are having you comment, we see that you're in here, we know that you're interested, we're going to be inviting you, and hopefully that's something that's of interest to you. So all you got to do is stay put and look for the invites, and you should see them come into your inbox. But you also might want to watch this video again just to review and see what some of those points were that Ana was talking about that you can really take away and make some action.
Definitely. And I'll be watching Mia Voss in a month because she rocks.
Yes, she does. Well, thank you again, Ana. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you coming out.
I love being here. Thank you so much for having me.